Hi, today's topic is the fundamental nature of singularity. This is the book that I co-wrote with the guides you see me channel every week. If you enjoy my channeling, you're really going to enjoy this book, I'm pretty sure. It's called The 3 Awakenings That Save Humanity. It's available in the paperback, as you can see here, also in ebook and audiobook. So the links for this are below this video. Also, if you would like to have a private channeling session with me, that's something you can also do. Also below this video, you can see there's a link which takes you to a private channeling inquiry form, and you fill out the inquiry, you send it to me, and then we start a discussion. It doesn't commit you to anything. I had an influx of subscribers. So when I awoke on Wednesday, I had 40 subscribers. And then when I went to bed on Wednesday night, I had 57 subscribers. And I think there's a couple more that have added on since then. So it's taken me, I don't know, 10 months to get 40 subscribers. And then I got 18 subscribers in the space of 24 hours. So somebody must have mentioned my video somewhere else or shared it somewhere. If that's you, thank you very much. I really appreciate that you did that. And if you're one of the new people who just came, welcome, thank you very much. And I hope you enjoy your time here. Okay. Right, so the fundamental nature of singularity. Greetings and thank you for going with our inspiration. The fundamental nature of singularity. We have decided to bring this into a channel because singularity is an advanced topic, but as you will discover, as humanity's understanding of itself and the nature of the reality in which it exists, will discover that singularity is fundamental to the moment-to-moment experience of your life. Singularity is woven into everything. It is so ubiquitous, so relevant to the observable universe and also the machinations or the dynamics or the engine room, which is not part of the observable experience, but there nonetheless as a layer to make the illusory context of the all a possibility. And as such, as it is so fundamental to the very nature of the existence of the all, then of course this warrants an understanding. And when it is understood, it can be utilized. And when it can be utilized, then the capacities that you possess as an individual and as a species will transition to an entirely new level where you will have the ability to do things which at the moment would appear to be magic, or certainly at the very least advanced science fiction. So, let us begin in this way. On either side of singularity is found paradox. On the side of origination, there is one thing And then on the other side of singularity, meaning the exit point of singularity, is found something which is paradoxical to the origin. And the singularity serves the function of making what appears on the exit side of the singularity to take form and exist despite being completely paradoxical to the origin source, which has been transformed by the singularity into what it is. This is a necessary part of the all, because the all is, in the very fundamental definition, a paradox. The one is a singular being, and prior to the creation of the all, it existed as an intangible concept. There was no physicality. There was no capacity for differentiation. As there was no capacity for differentiation, there was no contrast, then there was no experience. And yet, the one yearned to know itself experientially. And for this to be a possibility, there needed to be a context in which experience could unfold. Existing as a single intangible concept precludes experience. So the one understood it must create the context for experience to be possible, and thereby for it to fulfill its desire to know itself experientially. So it created the all spirit, all space, all densities, all everything. And this was now the illusion of more than one. There was infinite galaxies, infinite individuated beings, infinite matter, infinite space. So now, instead of there just being one thing, now there was an infinite number of things. Yet they are still the one thing, existing in an illusory state where it appears to be an infinite number of things. Yet in reality, it is still the one thing. You can see this is the fundamental paradox of existence. The many arising from the one, the many being the one in a state of existing in an infinite number of ways simultaneously. To achieve this, the one created the very first singularity. And on one side of the singularity was the one existing as the single concept. And on the other side of the original singularity is the infinity of the all. The singularity is necessary because for the transformation of one thing into its paradox requires passing through a portal, in a sense, which itself is a defiance of what should be possible, using the available vocabulary of the channel. This is not something which is easy to explain. So we won't dwell too much on this definition, and we will proceed with where this channel is going. The all is fractal. It is all a fractal which is based in the beginning on the one. So, when the one exploded into this state of infinity as the all, it incorporated into this phenomenon the concept of singularity, because the all is an expression of the one, and as such, the fundamental characteristics of the one are imbued into the all. And this includes the use of singularity. So, the very first layer to emerge from the singularity in the physical plane and in the spiritual plane and in the density plane was the emergence of the largest group beings within the context of the all, because the all is the ultimate group being. All individuations of the one existing within the all are in fact the one. So the one is the ultimate group being. And as the universe is fractal, when it exploded itself into infinite individuations, those individuations also are group beings. And the original layer of group being are what you would call galaxies, the galactic beings. And they themselves are tremendously large group beings. Yet in the very first emergence, they themselves were a singular being. They had not individuated themselves in the very beginnings of the all, of the universe. And so, as it is a fractal model and imbued within each of the individuations are characteristics of the one, then these galactic beings themselves, through the use of singularity, started to individuate. And these individuations was passing themselves through singularity, such that on the other side of the singularity emerged individuated consciousness. And so those individuated consciousnesses are part of the group being of the galaxy. And the galaxy is part of the group being of the one. So, these consciousnesses that were being birthed via singularity within the galactic beings were what you would call star systems. So, very first was the emergence of stars. And these stars were the individuation as a direct act of passing itself through singularity, new beings that were being born into existence as an individuation of the galactic being. So, in a sense, you could say that you have the light of the all, and then the light of the all passes through singularity, and when it passes through singularity, it diffracts, and it diffracts into multiple beings. And then when these multiple beings themselves pass themselves through singularity, they also diffract into multiple beings. And as this discussion continues, you will see that this is a continuous process, passing through singularity to diffract into multiple beings. And eventually we will get to the layer where you will see that you yourself have emerged from a side, from the exit side of the singularity. And you are one of these diffractions. And it does not stop there, because you yourself are passing through singularity to be diffracted into individuations of yourself. You yourself are a group being. So, going back to the galactic layer and the galaxies having originally existed as the singular being with no individuation, began by individuating themselves as the stars. And these stars were the galaxy beings passing themselves through singularity, and then emerging was the diffracted ray of light originating from the one, and each of these diffractions were the birthing of a new individuation, and these being the stars. Then the stars also pass themselves through the portal of singularity, such that this paradoxical expansion of individuation could continue. And emerging from the other side of this singularity portal was the diffracted ray of the star, which were the planets, which began to orbit the stars, or the stars, because some stars exist in binary relationships. So, these planets themselves are individuations of the stars. It is the result of the stars passing themselves through singularity, such that they further diffract the ray of light originating from the one. And these diffractions are the emergence of more individuation, being the planets. Then this continues. The planets themselves, after time, as the universe continued to mature, the all continued to mature. As this maturation continues, the one is gathering more experiential knowledge of itself. And as it gathers more experiential knowledge of itself, then its capacity to evolve is accumulating. So, evolution is the testing of the new capacity which is accumulating within the one through the experience of itself. So as each of these individuations of the one gather experience, then they are proxies for the one. So the one itself is gathering experience. It is increasing the experiential knowledge of itself. And as there is increased experiential knowledge of itself, then this is synonymous with saying, then there is increased capacity to express itself, to discover new ways of being, new ways of existing. And this is evolution. So, as the all was gathering more experience, and the one was therefore had increasing, accumulating experiential knowledge of itself, it could then start diffracting itself, individuating itself into more sophisticated forms, which have greater capacity for free will and experimentation and unique experience. And this was the emergence of species. And the species that began to emerge on these planets that are orbiting these stars, which are originating within these galaxies, which are part of the one, diffracted themselves. So these planets passing through singularity, diffracting the ray, which traces back to the one, diffracting into the various species which begin to emerge on the planets. And these emerging species are themselves, even though there are many individual units within the species, are themselves in the origins, in the very origins of species, were not individual as you would understand it, but were instead a single being of many parts, in a similar way to what still exists on your planet now as the hive mind of insects, bees, ants. So there is not so much individual sentience. Instead, there is just the single organism of many parts. And as the experiential knowledge of the one head of its sword continued to expand and accumulate, then it was then able to start evolving on these planets a sentient being which was individual within itself. So it was part of the species, yet it had the capacity to have its own unique individual mind. It wasn't connected so much to the hive mind, and instead could have the free will of an individual. And so this was the group being, the special being, passing itself through singularity and then emerging on the other side of the singularity was the individuation, the further diffraction of the ray into the individual sentience. And looking at the model of your galaxy, which is also our galaxy, the galaxy is an individuation of the one. So the one individuated itself into the galaxies. And then our particular galaxy individuated itself into the many stars. And then those stars individuated themselves into the many planets. And then those planets individuated themselves into the many species. So on your planet, those individuated species includes the humanity being. And the humanity being has individuated itself into the individuals that you know yourselves as. You are an individuation of the humanity being. The special being from which you are a part is the humanity being. And as humanity grows in its awareness and inches closer to the fourth density, this acknowledgement of the unity of the humanity being will become part of your understanding of who you are and what the greater context of humanity is. Until eventually, when you pass into fourth density, you will then have the additional dimensional way in which you exist. So right now you exist in the 4 dimensions of the 3 dimensions of space and the 1 dimension of time. So you're a 4-dimensional being. When you have passed through the singularity of ascension, yes, more ascension, we'll get to that, into the 4th density state, you will then exist in 5-dimensional ways. And the 5th dimension will be unity. It will be your awareness of your integration as the group being. So, you will respond to the query, who are you, as I am me the individual and I am the group being. You will literally have an identification. It won't be an identity that you have learned. It will literally be an identity that you feel. that you understand, that is literally incorporated into your very beingness. So it will not be an intellectual response, it will be a heartfelt understanding of who and what you are. So, you yourself are a group being. The cells within your body have their own unique awareness and can be seen upon observation to go in certain places, do certain things, as if they have their own individual sentience of a degree, their own individual consciousness, would be more accurate to say. And so, as they have their own individual consciousness, then it could be said that they are themselves a being, and they are within you. So, in a sense, part of you is comprised by these many trillions of individual consciousnesses that are existing within the physical avatar. So, from this perspective, you yourself are a group being. And it does not stop there, because there is a fractal incorporation into the all. And fractal itself is the pattern within the pattern within the pattern within the pattern infinitum. Fractal, by definition, is itself concluding in singularity, which is not a conclusion at all. So, let us explain. Within each of your trillions of cells are many trillions of atoms. And these atoms themselves are a form of consciousness. The one, prior to the creation of the all, existed as an intangible concept. This is synonymous with saying it was an intangible consciousness, as it had awareness of itself in a conceptual sense. And so, as it created the all, then the all is itself a construction of this single originating consciousness. So, each atom within the physical reality is itself a form of this consciousness. So, atoms themselves are consciousness. As they are consciousness, then they are, in a definition, a being unto themselves. A very rudimentary, fundamental, with no sentience, being, because they are a form of consciousness. And consciousness is life, because it is the one. So, each of the trillions of cells that comprise your physical body are themselves group beings. And yet further, the atoms themselves are divisible, so you get the subatomic particles. But as your science continues to develop, what has already occurred a couple of times now is that what was believed to be the smallest possible particle was later discovered through the advancement of technology to be actually comprised by more small particles. So it wasn't the smallest particle, it was divisible. And yet, this experience was had again where what was believed to be the new smallest particle was itself discovered through the advancement of technology to be comprised of subatomic particles. What has already been theorized by many of the cutting-edge, leading-edge theoretical physicists on your planet is that there is no smallest particle. That as technology continues to advance, what will be discovered is that each individual particle is itself divisible. So, matter is infinitely divisible. Meaning that there is no end to the fractal. Because as you divide down layers and layers and layers and layers, you will never find the smallest particle. Ever. So, this fractal ends in singularity, but even more so. What this implies, if each of these individuated sub, and so on atomic particles have mass, and it is infinitely divisible, then this implies that each atom has infinite mass, because there are infinite particles all with mass. So there must be infinite mass. So this means that each of your atoms are themselves singularities, because this is characteristic of singularity. Singularity has at its center infinite mass, where space-time is literally curled, bent. So, the very fundamental self-contained particle within your physical reality is itself a singularity. So, can you see how fundamental singularity is to your reality? It is literally everywhere. And this, of course, makes complete sense, because, as we started by saying, on either side of singularity are paradox. So, as the one is an energy being, it is just a consciousness with no physicalities, no tangibility to the one. For it to exist in the form of the all, then obviously this is a paradoxical state, because something which is only consciousness, which is only an intangible concept, is existing in a solid, touchable, tangible way. This is paradox. So, dividing these two states must be singularity, such that this transformation of the intangible into the tangible can take place, and the paradox can coexist, in a sense, on either side of the singularity. So, as singularity is fundamental, then this could go on, this discussion could go on infinitum, because there are so many occurrences of the singularity which can be discussed. So let us instead divert this conversation to a discussion of singularity which could be useful to you, the individual. We are sensing some trepidation within the channel. So we say just relax and allow this to flow and trust the download stream. Okay. So, you yourself are passing through singularity all of the time. The individual moment that you reside within is a single moment. And so time, as you understand it, is just a changing perspective of this one moment. So all experiences across the all, for every galaxy, every star, planet, being, atom, subatomic particle, all of it is occurring at this one single moment. And all that is changing is the perspective of this one single moment. and it creates the illusion of the passing of linear time. So, this changing perspective is, in a sense, a snapshot of that perspective of that moment, of this single moment. So, these changing perspectives are snapshots, and they stream together much like the individual frames within some video footage. And it creates the illusion of there is actual movement on the screen. And yet, what is occurring is there are individual snapshots passing through so quickly that it creates the appearance of the flow of time, of experiences, of movement. Yet it is just a fast sequence of individual snapshots. Your reality is passing in a very similar way. And each of these single snapshots are themselves joined by singularity. So you are continually passing through singularity. And this, of course, is the state because you appear to be in this continuous flow of experience. But it is not that at all, but instead just these individual snapshots. So these paradoxical states are connected by singularity. You are continuously passing through singularity. And the singularity you pass through is based on your energetic signature. You are manifesting what you perceive. All around you are many other portals leading into completely different experiences. Yet, what appears to flow through seems to make sense from the moments that were preceding it. So, you can see the channel sitting here. And in the next moment, the channel is still sitting here. So it makes complete sense. There seems to be a congruency, a sort of a linear relationship to the moment now and the moment that follows. Yet, existing within the moment where you see the channel sitting, there are an infinite number of singularities or portals which are leading to versions or snapshots of the universe, that of the all, that are completely different. And so, what this implies is that when one is a higher density master and have full understanding of this fundamental nature of singularity and how that reality is broken down to these single snapshots, and each of these snapshots are connected to the current moment through singularity, then the choice can be made to, instead of following this congruent linear flow of time, such that you find yourself in new moments which make complete sense of the moment that you've been in. Or, the perspective, the changing perspective is congruent and linear. The choice can be made instead through technology, initially, to divert and choose a path or choose a singularity which from the other side emerges into a completely different version of, or a different perspective of the all. Now, the way that this technology will initially emerge is that the portal which can be chosen will lead to a completely different location. So, it will be possible to travel from here to here without making the transition between these two places. Literally, you will disappear from this spot and you will emerge in this spot instantaneously. having passed through a portal of singularity, such that when you emerge, you have a perspective of the all which isn't congruent and linear. This will be the initial way this technology is used by humanity, because it is always the first way that it is used, through the basis of technology. But there is a way that you can use this understanding in your own personal life. And let us explain how it can be utilized. So, in your physical reality, you have an observable experience. And yet, the experience you have is emerging from a blueprint. And this blueprint some parts of it are very unchanging, and yet other parts are in continuous flux. And these parts which are in continuous flux, and when we say parts are unchanging, so your planet, for example, it exists there, it goes around the sun. These are parts of this blueprint which are, in the most part, unchanging. Yet, there are parts of this blueprint which are in a state of flux, and they are literally being shaped by you at all times. And your physical reality is emerging from this blueprint. And you are perceiving what you are manifesting. Within this blueprint is all possibility. And the form that it takes, or what makes its way into your perception, is that which is the closest match to your energy signature. So, when you are in a state, for example, something which is very much weighing on the minds of humanity, of individual humans, is, do I have enough? Can I continue on in a state of health and security? Will my resources be sufficient? This is a very common way to think on your planet. And when somebody is in a state of diminished resources, where they are struggling financially, and to go from that space to being in a place where they have everything they need, following this congruent linear progression, where each moment that you experience this change in perspective is very similar to the one that came before, then it looks like to go from here to arrive there, from being very poor in resources to being abundant in resources, is a very long road which is going to take a considerable amount of time. However, when you understand this concept of singularity, such that you can pass through the portal and emerge on the other side in a state which is paradoxical to where you began, yet without this linear progression of time, where you've had a changing perspective which makes complete sense to the one that led before, then this implies that if all of these moments, all of these different versions of your reality are all connected to you through a singularity, and you can choose to pass through a different portal of singularity to emerge on the other side where things are remarkably different, then you can begin incorporating this into your understanding of yourself and your physical reality. So when you are able to incorporate this as a belief that your physical reality is literally that malleable, you can literally have the experience of remarkable instant change. Now, we don't mean instant as in you will snap your fingers and suddenly you're surrounded by riches and your clothes have changed and everything's different. This is what we just described possible. Yet, for the human experience on your planet at this time, it isn't. However, what is possible is that you could have a windfall of some type, which comes out of the blue. So, you are very poor in resources, and then suddenly you get a phone call, you receive an email, you happen to have a very lucky moment where you win a prize, and suddenly this new information is literally transformative. The phone call is to tell you that the business deal you've been trying to pull off but never thought ever was going to happen has been awarded to you and is worth many more millions than you anticipated. Or you receive an email from somebody who is your relative and saying that you have been left an inheritance that was completely unexpected. And now your financial situation has completely transformed. The more that you can believe this is a possibility, because it is literally a possibility. It is very true that this is the malleable nature of your reality. Then it becomes much more likely that something like this will happen. So you have a belief that all around you at all times are singularities, portals, leading to completely different states of your life, states of the all. And then change your energetic signature. So your energetic signature now becomes resonant with one of these alternate versions existing on the other side of the singularity, on the other side of the portal. So if you have a strong desire to be in a much better financial position, then start thinking of it in this way. It is not way, way, way off in the distance. It is literally right here. It is so close you can touch it. But it is passing through a singularity which is not in the central focus of where your vision is, because you do not have a belief that your reality is that malleable. You don't have an understanding that this blueprint, which is the substructure of your physical experience, is in a state of flux and is highly malleable. And so when you can caress your beliefs such that you can accept that you are surrounded by singularity, and each of these singularities are portals into a completely different experience of your life, then you can accept that an abundant state is literally this close. It is not something way off in the distance on the other side of those treacherous mountains. It is literally like there. So, when you hold the belief it is that close, because it is, and you start having an energetic signature which is congruent with being in that abundant state, then what will happen is you'll begin to steer yourself in the direction of that singularity. And so instead of passing through this continuous succession of singularities as each individual moment connects to the next in a linear congruent way, so you just keep following the same path, your belief in the singularity, in the portal to a different experience, and your increasing resonance with abundance will begin to steer you away from the predictable towards the unpredictable. And then your forward progression will start to pass through portals of singularity, which are becoming more and more aligned with what it is that you desire to be. Let us finish in this way. The One is infinite. And as you are the One, you also are infinite. Because the All is fractal. And the All is diffracting itself into the galaxies, which is diffracting itself into the stars, which are diffracting themselves into the planets, which are diffracting themselves into the special groups, which are diffracting themselves into the individuals, which is diffracting themselves into the cells, which is diffracting themselves into the atoms, subatomic particles, subatomic particles. And so the light of the One is infinitely diffracting. And you are part of this infinite diffraction. You yourself, once the ray of light has passed through your unique singularity of individuation, you yourself continue to diffract infinitely into a greater dispersion of the light of the One. You are a model of your God, of the One. So your capacities are profound. And as you have increasing understanding of the mechanics of your reality, then you will begin to have the capacity to start doing things which to humans a long time ago would seem to be godly, would seem to be impossible. Miracles. And then humanity as a whole is passing through third density and its transition to the singularity of ascension. Singularity involves quantum leap. The singularity can never be reached. By definition, you can never reach the end point of singularity. So, to transition from one side of singularity to the other side of singularity requires quantum leap. This gap must be leapt across. So there is instantaneous transformation from the originating state to the paradoxical state. And this space in between is not transitioned through. So one passes through the singularity, and yet it does not. Because when you emerge from the other side of the singularity, you have quantum leapt to bridge that gap. This is what is on the horizon for humanity, because the birth canal of ascension from third density into fourth density is itself singularity. And the singularity is what can never be reached. Yet, nonetheless, there will be the quantum leap from coming so close to touching the singularity of third density, and then in the snap of a finger, there will be the quantum leap and emergence from the other side of the singularity into the fourth density state. And as there will be the transition across the singularity, then humanity will emerge in a paradoxical state to how it exists now. This is synonymous with saying that humanity will be profoundly transformed. You, the individual, will be profoundly transformed. This is an incredible opportunity. Yet, there is no guarantee you will be part of that experience, because it will be dependent upon your compatibility with the metaphysics or the energy dynamics of the Ascension event. If you wish to make the transition into the fourth density state, where your understanding and capacity to utilize the fundamental nature of singularity will be profoundly greater than it is now, then you must be compatible with the Ascension event, meaning your vibration must be above the threshold, so that instead of being buffeted out, you will be incorporated into the Ascension event and carried to the singularity, and then being part of the quantum leap into the fourth density state, emerging from the birth canal of Ascension as a being of the light, of unity, fully incorporated into its understanding that it is part of the greater group being, the humanity being. So, start living your life as a being which is aligned to the light end of the spiritual spectrum. Purge your darkness, and in every moment, be a being of total and utter virtue to the best of your capacity. Treat others from a perspective which originates from the light. Be demonstrative in your expression of who you truly are, which is the light, which is love and its derivatives. And through this process of identifying less with the darkness, entertaining the emotional qualities of fear and its derivatives less and less, and instead replacing them with experiences of who you truly are, which is the light, love and its derivatives, then your vibration will continue to escalate until you reach a point where you are above the threshold. And so when the Ascension event occurs, you will be incorporated into rather than buffeted out, and make the transition, the quantum leap, into the fourth density. So, if that seems, from where you are, a difficult thing to accomplish because of the experiences and the circumstances that are occurring in your life right now, then understand a different version of your reality that you desire is literally this close. It is right there. It pre-exists. You are a being of perception, not creation. Everything, all experience that is possible for you pre-exists. All that you are required to do is to be resonant with it, to have a belief it is possible. And then it will come into your reality. You will begin to perceive what has always been there. It is this close. So using this understanding of singularity, being all around you, acting as a portal into a version of your experience which does not follow this slow changing linear path, this congruent appearance of each moment making sense. But instead, it is also entirely possible that you can pass through one of these alternate singularities, portals into a version of reality which is completely different and did not take many years to arrive at. Then you can begin living your life with much greater confidence and much greater faith that what it is that you desire, when you make your definitions from a position which is in understanding that it is the light, you can become the being that you wish to be and live the life you wish to live. Much more easily than perhaps you believed was possible. Begin with belief. And the impossible, the miraculous, will begin to appear in your life. And the transformation will begin. Thank you, and we love you.